Welcome to another tutorial. I am LindaE of OOAKartdolls.com. That's OOAK artdolls.com. This video will be part of my ongoing mission to show the world the art of one-of-a-kind doll artists. This video will be and in it we will, if you like my videos, please take a moment and subscribe to my channel, as more will be added each week. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, would be appreciated. And here's the video. Now that you have the fingers sculpted, the last step is going to be to add them to the palm, or add the palm to them. And you want to take your scrap clay that we had before, that we cleaned our hands with, and I usually use it to make sure that there's no random pieces of anything on my work surface, and then clean my hands with it again real quick. What we're going to do is take a little piece of clay, get it conditioned, and I usually try, as I'm conditioning the clay, to keep looking at it and make sure that lint hadn't settled on it inside of the wrapper, which happens. And if it's there, you just scrape it off and it gets added to the little scrap ball, which is where it came from in the first place. The scrap ball idea, I mean. Okay, and once you have it pretty well conditioned, and you don't want to give up too soon. It is a small piece of clay, but given that you're going to use it to help get these wires to behave and your fingers laid into them the way you want them, you don't want to cut that corner and not have it where it needs to be. Okay, so you're going to pinch off a piece of clay, and it's going to be a pretty small piece of clay, thin and not extremely long. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the hand in question, the one that we're making this hand, making to match this hand, okay? This is that hand. We're making the opposite hand, so you're going to use the picture. You're going to lay your clay down on it, and I would recommend that you take a tool and trim it so that it's not bigger than the hand that we are working with. I'm going to move my hand that I already made onto it. And the reason to do this, as you're making them, even if yours isn't already baked, is to make sure that you don't make two right hands or two left hands. If you keep the one in the area that you're working, even if you cut this paper in half and you put one over here so you don't touch it again by accident, you want to make sure that you're working on the correct hand. Have a picture of the hand in front of you. Okay, so I'm going to pry this up. Alright, so this time I'm going to put the hand together upside down because the curved fingers were making it difficult. So you're going to apply the finger and the wire into the clay like this so that it can't move around. You're going to take the next finger. Your biggest finger is typically going to become the middle finger. So make sure you have that one as the middle finger. And flatten that wire out. Okay, and then the next finger would be the pointer finger. And again, you are, there we go. That's pretty good. All right, you're going to lay the fingers in, and you want to remember that the knuckles are not in a straight line. The finger, each knuckle is at a different height than the one next to it. These two fingers being the farthest forward, the pinky being the farthest back overall. And it's also on a lower plane than the other fingers. These are up here, and the pinky is always down lower. So you want to look at the fingers as you're putting them in and make sure that you are putting them in correctly. Try to get them lined up so that they're, and you can press them down into this clay a little bit if you want. That's the back of the hand. Okay, and then this one. And if they start drifting, now is the time to get them back where they want. Now, this longer wire was supposed to be the middle finger, but it turned out that that is a longer finger. So I'm actually making it the middle finger, and it'll be fine. That wire will not, it will not be the end of the world. And you want to get this one in the same way. Make sure that it is a little further this way. Oops. As it's lining up. Then those two. Get pressed into that clay pretty well. Okay, and then the pinky. Straighten the wire a little bit. The pinky's a little bit straighter finger on this one. Kind of your teacup. Hannah, stop. Your teacup pose with the pinky sticking it out. And if it won't cooperate, because you're so close to the table, use a pair of tweezers to force it to do what it's supposed to do. You can use the tweezers to hold the wire or to hold the finger itself. Get it in place and make sure they're not too far apart. They should be running in a straight line down towards the wrist. Okay, and then the thumb is going to attach back here. So you're going to bend that wire. Get the thumb in again. Thumb's going to actually need to go on that side. So I'm going to have to rebend that wire. You want it to be on the correct side of the wire that you have the other finger on. There we go. And the thumb kind of goes a little sideways to the hand. It doesn't, even when the hand is flat, the thumb usually isn't flat like the other fingers, not unless you push on it. It naturally tilts to the side a little bit. And we are looking at the back of the hand, so the thumb is actually going to poke up a little, where you're looking at more of the bottom of it than the side of it. And just twist the wire, because it seems to be guiding where the thumb is going to stay. And you don't want it too terribly long. This thumb is poking out. Mine is curved in a little bit more because this hand's going to be holding something. Okay, so now what you do is you take another piece of clay, condition it pretty good, and make sure you have enough by taking and pressing it out on the other side of the hand. Make sure you have enough and not too much. And then you're going to spread it out a little so that it's going to cover all of those wires. You're making a finger sandwich here. Okay? Finger sandwich. And my dogs are asking to go out, so I'm going to be right back. Okay, and now what you're going to do is try not to move the fingers around too much, but you're going to bring the bottom piece of clay up to meet the top piece of clay, and you're going to get these wires to start moving towards, and you can pre-bend them. I guess I could have pre-bent them if I was thinking and not recording. Pre-bend them so that they move towards the wrist instead of the outside of the hand. And you can keep a little pressure on the middle of the palm as you're doing this part. This is just knitting the top layer to the bottom layer so that when you do this next part, everything stays together. What you do now is get your scalpel or your whatever your flat blade tool is and come underneath and release the hand. Okay, so now that we have it pried up, we're going to try to soften these sides up and start figuring out if we have enough clay overall on the hand. And we're also going to look at if we have two hands that are similar in size. Looks pretty close. Okay, again, going to hold these fingers still and wiggle these wires together a little bit. Pinch the wires tight and give them a little twist, just so they stay together while we do all the rest of this. Alright, it's not perfect, but it'll work. Okay, and since we twisted them, they're a little disjointed. Take them back where they go. Again, you can use your tweezers for that. I don't know about you, but my hands are not small. My fingers are not small enough to do such jobs without the tweezers. Make sure that they're not too far apart. The wires like to do wiry things. And it's pretty obvious we're going to need more clay here. So I'm going to pull another little piece off and condition it to put on this top section. Probably need a little more than that. Yeah, that'll be alright for a starter. And you can use layers with the clay. It doesn't really affect it that much. So we're going to come across the knuckle here. Towards me, not towards you. There we go. I'm going to come across the knuckle here. And I'm going to mesh this clay into that clay. You can use whatever kind of tool you want. You can sculpt with a toothpick when you're doing hands. It really doesn't make that much difference. You're going to matter of fact, I think I'm going to switch to the toothpick now. You just want to make sure that whatever you're using is perfectly smooth. And if it's not, then get a piece of sandpaper and hit it with the sandpaper and get rid of any ridges that would cause more lines than it cures. Just do a real quick sanding. I only use the toothpicks for so long because I've noticed that they soak up oil, and then instead of, see, very smooth, instead of smoothing the clay, they actually make more texture, and texture is not what I want. So you're just going to take and smooth, and you can keep pressing from the outside edge. You use a bigger tool to flatten larger areas. You can take this like this and roll. Make sure it's a smooth tool, that it doesn't have texture. Again, texture is your enemy when you're trying to sculpt, unless you're trying to create texture, in which case it's a moot point. But in this case, we do not want texture. So you're going to keep rolling this clay out onto the fingers and get them meshed together, seamed together, however you like to say that. You can use a paintbrush to blend this one into that one. You can use TLS at this point if you want to help bond the old clay and the new clay together. Remember, every time you brush in between the fingers, you're going to want to spread out, so you want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that that is not what they're doing. And the top of the hand is looking very flat, but we all know the hand is anything but flat. So if you want a nice, natural, relaxed looking hand, let's see, a relaxed hand has a curve to it. The hand flat does not look relaxed. The hand relaxed curves. There's a curve to the top of the hand. This is your not relaxed. This is relaxed. Okay, a little close to it for it to show very well, but okay, so the hand is actually not flat. When your hand is stretched out, then the top of the hand flattens out. But when your hand relaxes, the fingers drop, and the top of the hand actually has a curve to it. It curves from the high point where the middle finger is, curves down around towards the thumb, and it curves down around towards the pinky. The only flat plane that you'll still see is along the bones, because they don't bend. But the bones, if you imagine these are the bones, when the hand relaxes, they drop on this side and they drop on that side. So you have this curve across the top of the hand. If the hand is spread out, the fingers are spread out like this, the palm flattens out, then you do have a flat surface across the hand. Otherwise, the hand has a curve to it. And the pinky is on a lower plane than the whole rest of the hand. So you're going to drop that side down again, adding to that curved effect. And the knuckles, you can establish. I love these paintbrushes. They're like the perfect tool. They're made by Princeton. I think I got it at Michael's? Yeah, Michael's. It's a round snap, whatever that means. It's a 3-0. The end of it is perfectly smooth and round, and it's a great aid while you're sculpting for smoothing. And no, nobody paid me to say that. I just love these brushes. I'll buy 5 or 6 of them at a time because I like to use them for painting and for sculpting. I stock up just in case they ever decide to do away with them. And they do, because of the way I guess the way the bristles are cut, they do after a time get a little frayed, and then they're not really good for painting anymore, but they're still great for sculpting. And again, the whole time you're sculpting, keep track of which way those fingers are aimed. Now we're going to come to the bottom of the hand and we're going to address a little bit of the muscle that should be on the bottom of the hand, on the palm. I'm going to bring the thumb around because, like I said, this hand is going to be holding something. Pinky is going to stay out a little bit like that. Yeah. So when the hand comes around, the thumb comes around. We're going to take and put an extra little bit of clay across this part of the hand. And we're going to use that clay to knit and blend the back of the fingers into the rest of the hand. So you're just going to kind of flatten it out a little bit. To get some of this to go down towards those fingers. Careful not to spread them too far apart towards the fingers, and then into the hand with the rest of it. Okay. You can take a little ball stylus, and you can put the hand between 2 fingers and press the stylus into the palm, and that helps to create that indentation that is in the center. Keeps the hand in that curve that we mentioned before. The hand is going to wrap around, and it's kind of almost in a ball when it does that. Alright, this hand is doing something different than the other hand, which is why I'm showing you again so that you can see what happens when you change the hand pose. Different hand pose does require a little bit different treatment for the hand. The side of the hand where the pinky is has a different shape than the other side of the hand. So you're going to go from the bone line of the ring finger slightly over and above the pinky finger, and you're going to indent in and roll around. Indent in and roll around. You want to keep that curve. Okay, and this also at the same time creates the pucker where this muscle raises up. See how it raises up? You can, depending on how much you want the hand to curve, you can start giving it a bend now. Okay. And creating that bigger curve. All right, come back on the back side, and you're going to reach through and pull that clay that's on the other side towards this side of the hand, and then push this clay back through to that side of the hand, almost even more than you did in the other direction. And you can see the fingers are spreading out as I'm doing this. So you want to stop and mesh them back together. You don't want them spread too far. Alright, I'm going to use the toothpick and get this all working together cooperatively. This space between these fingers, if you look at the hand, the skin on this side is over here, the skin on the back is out here. So this is actually an angled slope. It's not a straight line. You can see the skin that's on the palm of the hand pretty much from the front of the hand where it webs. So when you're sculpting that, you want to remember that angle and keep it in place. You don't want to flatten that out. It's not a flat surface in between there. Now this finger right here is too low, so I'm going to push on it from the back and get it brought up to the correct height if I can here, and reduce the height of this knuckle a little bit and try to compensate. Now is the easiest time to get irregularities like this straightened out, because once the hand is baked, there's no fixing things like that. There we go. You want it to be not too much lower than this knuckle. I think when there we go. And go ahead and hold up on it as you take and seam this clay into that finger. There we go. You want that line to just blend from the top of the hand right into that finger. Now the fingers are looking super skinny, and I'll tell you the reason why very quickly by showing you the other hand. See how wide it's gotten? It's not that the fingers got skinny, it's that the hand got wide. So you want to compress. And if you have too much clay, then roll it away. Keep compressing those fingers towards each other. You don't want the hand to be too wide, and you don't want to crush the clay that you've added to the back side while you're fixing the clay that's on the front. So you have to kind of balance what you're doing. At a certain point, the clay gets too warm, and the best course of action is to sit it down for a little bit. You can even put it in the refrigerator if you like to cool it faster. I usually put it on a piece of tile that I have on the other side of the table here for a little bit, and that cools it off pretty nicely. And make sure you're not twisting the wrist too much. You can see it's coming along already, looking pretty good. Got a little too much space between these two fingers still, so I'm going to give it a shove again. Roll that knuckle back to the right height. And you see that little bubble right there? I have a sneaking suspicion I have an air bubble in there. Yep, see when you push on this side, that side moves. That is an air bubble, and you want to pop that. Put a hole here and give it a shove and get that right on out of there. That is Mooney waiting to happen. That is exactly what a Mooney is. It is trapped air under the surface. It can have moisture in it or not, but that air will expand. It's looking for somewhere to go. And the next thing you know, you have a white spot, a little Mooney. Sometimes it'll even raise up. Okay, so The top of the hand is looking pretty close to where I want it. Have a look. Curved hand. The thumb has moved, so I'm going to bring it back around. Okay. Bring my pinky up. You have all these wonderful creases on the bottom of the hand that appear. What I try to do is match the creases on my doll's hand to the creases on my actual hand. The way I see it, it's like a signature, a fingerprint, so to speak, that this doll has my handprint. You have creases in between these fingers that will appear, especially when the hand is balled up like this one's going to be. And you want to keep looking at your hand, how it acts when you do certain things. And since I want this hand to look like it's holding something, I want to keep, so I've got a pretty good hand shape going. What we're going to need to do is add some more clay over here where the thumb attaches and get the thumb in the proper position. Alright, and you can see that the wire that holds the thumb has moved. So I'm going to fix a little problem with this pinky where the pinky is too high. Get it set back down in there where it belongs. There are some pretty good creases on the hand where the pinky is. This one actually comes out and runs out along the hand and crosses over. And then there's one on this side that comes and crosses over the ring finger. And then depending on your hand, the line between these two will either curve in one direction or in both. But the ones here and here curve outward. And I apparently don't have enough clay here to establish that curve. So I'm going to throw a little more clay in there to cover that area so that I can establish the crease and get that finger so it doesn't look like it's set in there wrong. This is recording much better. Looks like it's staying in focus too. And always make sure, turn the hand over and keep an eye on what's going on the back of the hand, because it can get away from you pretty quick if you're not paying attention. Keep an eye on the direction, or I should say the orientation of the fingers. You don't want them to look like they're broken. So if you have to grab it and twist it, grab it and twist it. Get that little crease in there. Doesn't need to be quite so extreme. Can soften it a little. Okay, keep this fingers from wandering apart. Knuckles up. There they go. And just doing the hand or any other part of the thing, the doll, is it's a lot of back and forth, checking it when it's upside down and looking at how it looks when it's at different angles. Does it look the same way when you look at it as when I look at it? And photography actually helps with that a fair bit. If you're looking at it and it looks a little off, but you can't quite figure out why, it helps to take a picture. I'm getting a little too closed with the position of this thumb, so I'm going to pry it back open a little because I want this skin flap, the fleshy part of the hand here, to be open a little more than it is. When you're looking at your hand and you're looking at the doll's hand, you're going to look for similar bumps. This little piece of fat right here bulges out when the hand is in that position. So you want to make sure that it's doing the same thing on the doll. And if it's not, add a little more clay until it is. It should have a little bit of a bulge to it right there. Okay. Look at your hand again. The thumb. This indentation here needs to go away. Needs a little more clay there, so pull a little piece off, condition it, and it's going to go on the back of the thumb here. Oh, and I haven't done this in a minute, so let's have a look here. If we're still, okay, we're not. So this hand is actually getting too long and too thick. This is growing on the back here because I'm trying to curve the hand. So you can see I dug down far enough that I exposed the wire, and that's okay because I can fix that. And you want to be careful as you do all this. Two things. One, watch for hollowing, that your movement of the clay has not, see that wire, that whole thumb had moved this way. Alright, so now is the thumb, oops, got the thumb more in place where it should be. It's a little tall. And I'm going to use the clay that I just added in there. Let's do this. I want you to hold on to that ball for me. There we go. No. I need something that isn't so heavy, but that's okay. I'll use my pinky. How about that? There we go. Hold on to there. Okay, and smooth and round that in there. And the palm, when you do that, the palm muscles raise up and they widen a little, or narrow a little rather, but not as much as I have them, so I'm going to push them up and over and narrow this one back down a little into that one. Okay. The neighbor's kids are all outside making noise. Never fails. Okay, so I'm looking at my hand and I'm seeing some good stuff. Seeing what I want to see. Alright, now this part right here, I'm going to fill that in when I attach this hand to the arm. But for now, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to come over here and reduce this side of the hand the back of the hand curves this way, but it does not curve this way. These straight bones right here, they don't curve, and mine are curving. Going to flatten the back of this hand again. Trying not to crush it as I do so. I'm trying not to move the hand, the bones around, or the fingers around. I am repositioning the clay, which on really warm clay would be a big no-no. But at this point, this clay is still pretty cool. It was hot when I was working on it earlier. And then a little polish with the thumb there. Look at that again. This hand. Oh, yes, this part. When you put your hand in this position, the webbing part actually dips down and you get this little divot here. Mine is not dented enough. And what I normally use is this little spoon-shaped tool that I don't see. So I guess I'm going to go to my stylus and just gently tap that in. It's kind of multiple layers. Look again. There are some creases in that area, so you can make some little marks. A little bit deeper one. Don't go too far down. Okay. And that's pretty good. So her hand will be sort of resting atop a pole like that. Should be holding it like a short walking stick. Okay. And just the little finishing details, how far you go with the level of detail on a hand is completely up to you. You can go completely nuts and add veins and little tiny marks that resemble hair. It's all up to you. A hand this small, those little microscopic lines don't really show that much, but they are there, so if you want to add them, you can. I would suggest more of an indication of them than making them drastic. And everything on the hand, especially on a girl's hand, you don't want to go overboard. This hand, like the other hand I see is having a little bit of an issue with this one finger not being wide enough, so I'm going to throw a little TLS there. That's translucent liquid Sculpting. It's kind of a adhesive. It's literally a liquid clay, but I use it like an adhesive to bond old clay to new clay. And it works really, really well. And when clay is this thin, the piece that I'm putting on this finger is super thin. I'm always afraid it won't stick to the finger well. See, now you can see the taper of each finger. If you don't see the taper, Then add a little more clay and feather it in. Smooth your lines. Always turn the hand. Turn it upside down. Turn it left to right. Look at it from as many angles as you can before you bake it, so that if there is a problem, like the pinky looking broken. Okay, so that's it for this video. We have the first hand and the second hand, and you can see that they are about the same size. One has a more stiff pose to it. She's going to be pointing straight ahead. The other pose is a curved hand, which is a more complicated pose. But you can see how easy it is to achieve with the fingers already baked, because you can position and reposition them until you get the hand the way you want it, and also make sure that it will do what you want it to do, which in this case is to rest on top of the ball of a walking stick. This hand is still soft. I have not baked it yet, as I said in the beginning. I will bake this and set it, and then when I am ready, I will attach this wire to the armature's wrist wire, and then I will take clay and I will fill in the wrist all the way up to the arm, and this will then become the opposite hand on the doll. And that's the end of that one. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned from it and would like to see other videos, please help support my YouTube channel by giving the video a thumbs up and by subscribing to my channel. I will be making new videos on sculpting one-of-a-kind doll components, and I will be doing a lot of craft project, work in progress videos, demonstrations of my work, demonstrations of tools, and other videos related to sculpting in polymer clay. And I thank you for watching.